Evening, Moses. Just a question about the conditions, I suppose, and also the bowling in particular of Mustafiz, his cutters and variations. I mean, it's not really a kind of bowling you get often in Australia. I suppose more in the IPL. What sort of a challenge was he?
Yeah, to be honest, I've played with and against him in the IPL and played 60 games in the IPL, and even the wickets that we're playing on here, and even in Barbados in the one-day series, they're as foreign and as alien as we'll probably come across. They're a big adjustment for us, and we probably have to adapt a little bit quicker. That's for sure. There's no excuses there, but I think it's great for us to be exposed to this, because I don't think it's going to get any more different or any more the opposite to what we're used to in Australia. I think tonight Mustafiz showed how quickly he adapts. I think he bowled 23 slow balls tonight, or 24 slow balls, and did not bowl any balls pace on. And he doesn't do that when he plays, in the IPL. He still bowls. It's probably, I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's probably half. But he just completely, he summed up the conditions really well tonight. And credit to him. And obviously his slow ball, the amount of revolutions he gets on his slow ball, even on a good wicket's hard to play, let alone on something like that. So, we have to find a way in a very short turnaround to find a way to combat that, and try and get as many runs as possible. It's quite clear it's not going to be a 160 or a 180, 200 run wicket. But we still need to find a way to just get a few more out, whether it's 140, 150, whatever it might be. We just need to hustle a little bit, and try our best to get a few more.
And in the partnership you had with Mitch Marsh today, and sort of how you were building up when you were together, what were you seeing as a decent score in those conditions?
Yeah, I thought if we kept, if we batted together right to the end, which was obviously going to be quite a tough task in those conditions, but I thought we could have maybe 140, possibly pushed 150, but it would have been, even then, it would have been quite difficult having two right-handers in at the end facing Mustafiz there. Using his variations, we would have had to rely on a couple of mistakes or errors in length from him. Which is always possible when you've got two set batters. So, that's unfortunately just, as soon as, we just started to put a little bit of pressure on them where they might have had to second guess possibly some of their plans. And then we lost another wicket, unfortunately, and they were able to sort of get a little bit more comfortable again.
And just one, a broader one, I suppose, on the experience of the whole tour to date. Obviously, it's a different experience touring in the time of COVID. You had the interruption of the series in the West Indies, and obviously a pretty tight bubble in Bangladesh. I mean, how does that, I suppose, build up in terms of the team, and I suppose how do you kind of try to keep perspective and keep I suppose the ability just to concentrate on the next ball and the next game amid all that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dan. I mean, I can probably only speak on behalf of myself. I can't, whilst we're on the same tour, and I am on the same tour as everybody else, as I'm sure you're well aware, everyone has a slightly different, journey or a coping mechanism individually, what works for them. And but for me, I feel like, I've been coping okay. And I still feel like every time I go out to play, I'm ready to play and ready to do my best to win games of cricket for Australia. It looks, from what I can see around the group, it looks like everyone's in the same boat, but I can't be for sure. But yeah, there are some challenges for sure. 100% there are. But I still feel like the groups, there's no way anyone in the group would be using that as an excuse as to why as to why we may have not have performed like we'd like to.
Sure. I guess in the absence of anyone else, I mean, what if you can put it down to one or two things, what have you got to fix up before it's Friday, isn't it? Game 3.
Tonight, I actually thought they were a bit smarter than us, to be honest. I thought their cricket intelligence was probably, and it probably helps that, maybe they've played on these possibly on, in monsoon season here on this wicket a little bit more. It is a strange sort of softness to the wicket. So they've really adapted really quickly and, completely changed, I guess even how they've selected their teams per se and their squad. They've bowled 6 overs of spin almost in the power play. So, knowing that, what the wicket was going to be like here in monsoon, in this time of year, etc., with how wet it is and, how much it's going to hold, etc. So they've got the advantage of knowing what that plays like. We have, we had no idea it would be like that. So having said that, now we do know. And whilst we can't control a few things, we can definitely control, assessing our own performances and sort of coming up with plans as to how we're going to get better over the next 3 days. And not just for the next sort of 3 games, but, there's a young squad here and a lot of players who I think will go on into the future and play a lot more games of cricket for Australia. And if they can find ways to succeed here in these conditions, then they won't be faced with, too many tougher conditions in terms of how different, the actual wicket and the ground is away from, away from home.
Thanks, Dan.
Cool.
We've got one more here. We'll finish off with Adrian Warren.
Yeah, hi Moses. Both in the Caribbean and in this series, we've seen some pretty, well, I don't want to use the word spectacular, but some pretty dramatic batting collapses there. I mean, how important is it for someone to kind of try and bat through most of the innings? Like Mitch has got to around the 15th or 16th over in several of the games there, but it just seems the middle and lower middle order batters have just struggled there.
Yeah, I mean, ideally we have someone bat all the way through and take it, quite deep. But unfortunately, when it comes to T20 cricket, you've also got to try and score as many runs as you can, as quickly as you can. So there's that, there's always that fine balancing act of trying to put the bowlers under pressure and score as many runs as you can, but not give them a chance to get you out. And I actually thought tonight we probably actually gave ourselves from the start where we were after the power play, we gave ourselves a pretty decent platform to, to possibly get to, 140 or something like that on this wicket, which I think would have been a good score. But, unfortunately, we just, as you mentioned there, we lost a couple of wickets at the wrong time and exposed new batters to those conditions. And it's not easy to start on. So, it's not like, back home in Australia where, a batter can come out and within a ball or two, they're used to the conditions. It takes a little bit more time to adjust. And ideally, as you said, we do have a set batter batting the whole way through, but, we won't get to a score of 140 or 150 if you don't take any risks either. So it is just finding, I think, smarter ways and sort of higher percentage in terms of success ways to score your runs, and minimizing risk, obviously, as well as you can. But, to what the perfect answer is, I can't answer that.
You said that Bangladesh were perhaps smarter today. In what sense? Just obviously they're more familiar with the conditions there, but did their bowlers utilise the conditions a bit better with the changes of pace, or what were you kind of directly alluding to there?
Well, I think, yeah, like even just the, how they've they've taken, even their spinners bowled really slow. I thought both of our spinners bowled really well tonight as well. And Ashton Agar bowled beautifully, and he slowed his pace down even a lot today in comparison to yesterday, just from learning from, I guess, how he bowled on and what worked well yesterday. So I think, they've got the advantage of having played here so many times. But a lot of their spin bowlers are bowling less than 80 kilometres an hour. And that's not to say that's going to be successful all the time. It's just, possible in these conditions against our guys, against our batters who are probably used to facing faster spinners. It's a big change for us. So we've got to come up with a way to combat that as intelligently as possible as a batting team. And, for the bowlers, I think, I guess each of the bowlers will have their own strengths, and we try and get the most out of their strengths according to these conditions, if that makes sense. So, we've got to try and use the wicket as much as possible. It's not a fantastic wicket, but, we've got to try and do our best to make sure we utilise that. I thought Josh Hazelwood did that beautifully tonight, and and even in the first game as well. But it's different. The conditions are they're different for everybody, so it's just going to take some time adjusting. And hopefully now with a couple of games under our belt, I thought everyone was a little bit better tonight than last night. So hopefully we just keep improving the whole way through, and in my eyes, we should still win this series if we adjust well enough.
We haven't really seen you bowl at all on this tour. Is there any physical reason there, or was it just simply that your services haven't been called upon?
No, no physical reason. I'm ready to go. I'm marking my run up every game and bowling in the warm up. I'm keeping my loads up in the warm up just in case. We've seen here in these conditions, even Mitch Marsh has only bowled one over in the last two games. But I think in the next few games, I think we'll probably see Mitch, and we might see him utilised a little more. I think he'll be very hard to play with all of his changes of pace on this wicket as well. So, but yeah, we'll see we don't even that's if the wickets stay as they are at the moment. So we'll see what comes up in game 3.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.